welcome back to Between the Notes podcast, season 2. So today we're going to be answering some questions that I hope that will be helpful about all things auditioning. I know for me, it's like you start this quest and you're like, okay, what makes a good audition? Like, how do I, it's like you immediately want feedback, right? You're like, how do
Right.
I do this? And obviously you do the job so you can get hired to do it, but that's not always the case. Oftentimes auditioning is just sort of an introduction to a company. Sometimes people just want to hear you, then they want to hear you again the next year.
Sure.
And so I think it's important for us to talk and make these things known, but to talk about what we can do as singers to certainly put our best foot forward and to try to, in a very short period of time, help the company or the producing organization that's hearing us get to know us not only as an artist, but as a human, right? Because I think that's the goal.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, as performers, as communicators, as artists, we are the kind of vessel through which this piece, poem, notes,
Music.
whatever it is, music,
How it lives.
is how it's brought to life. Otherwise it sits on a shelf somewhere. And the company, who the presenting organization, needs to see that we are a worthy carrier of that torch or that banner. Right. And so it's not just about the sound that comes out of your mouth. Obviously that's a big part of it, but
Right.
also what your body conveys, what your eyes convey, what your face conveys with how you're telling the story. And I think that without jumping into the weeds too fast on this, the panel wants to seem someone who's confident and at ease, which is so contrary to what it often feels like. So you at least got to be able to fake it, right? You got to be able to act that out.
Well, and to that point, the audition starts when you walk in the room.
Precisely.
Right? Like the moment that you cross that corridor. I think we had a great talk with Beth Clayton about sort of dealing with the mental aspects of auditioning, which I encourage, if anybody hasn't seen that episode, go back and watch that in season 1.
Yeah.
But, as you walk into the room, making eye contact with these people and introducing yourself, it's one of the only opportunities that they get to see your personality and get to understand, oh, okay, great. This person seems very at ease with who they are and are very easy to talk with and have a great demeanor. Like all of these different things can be shown within the first, 10 seconds.
And that's your riz, right? That's your charisma. That's what everybody wants to see.
That's exactly right.
That's what everybody wants to see. That X factor that, of course, if you want to be an opera singer and you don't have the voice at it still at this point, then it doesn't matter how much riz you have.
Right.
But that can really it can really take you a while. So you walk in, you go to the crook of the piano, you announce your piece, or maybe even you take a second just to confer with the pianist, either on tempo or whatever it is. I'd say that probably is the way to go. And then once you're all on the same page, then walk over to the crook and announce yourself. And so what's your verbiage you like for that? Because there's all kind of
before we get
is I am
exactly
all this different stuff.
Before we get into it, I also want to encourage everyone to be super organized, right?
Yes.
So like when you put together, I mean, nowadays, whether you're using an iPad or whether you still have a 3-ring binder, I just encourage you to be so organized. That was one of the things that for whatever reason, I just kind of gleamed onto that. Back before iPads, I always had a notebook with like a divider thing that you would get at like Office Max or whatever.
Right.
And so like you would, the pianist would open up the binder and there would be a table of contents, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And each line was a corresponding number that had a color to it. And then the divider had that same number and color tab. So, if number 4 was Avant de quitter, you'd open up number 4 and that was purple or whatever. And then there was the music. And I can't tell you how many times, opera companies will hire like the staff pianist that works for that company to play the audition.
Sure, of
course. So if you don't think that feedback from the pianist is going to make its way to the company, you're fooling yourself. Because even the monitor outside the audition room, right, oftentimes works for the company. And so how you treat others in that audition waiting room and how you treat the monitor and how just your demeanor, all of it matters, right?
All of it matters.
Being a kind person, being respectful, being organized, I think is incredibly important.
Totally.
But yeah, so to your point, right? You're standing in the crook, you're introducing yourself. I do think that when you're introducing yourself to a group of people that do not know who you are, You know, I was always a big fan of I
Yeah.
am Weston Hurt, and I would love to sing for you, A per sempre from i Puritani, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
Um, my name is, I mean, it's fine. I think if we get too much in the weeds of analyzing what these first words are, as long as it's representative of your
And
personality
it's
and you,
natural, right? That's what it's got to
right,
sound. It's got to sound natural,
right,
you
right.
know?
And there's an expectation that you're going to be nervous. So I
Of
mean, people.
course.
So if you are able to put them at ease and find a way to um, create in yourself an opportunity that you see this as a performance as opposed to an audition, I think there's a psychological aspect to that where there's a great video, right, with Bryan Cranston. Michael Keaton has also talked about this, but
Mm,
they're like, once I realized that that's the gig, you
right.
go and you do a performance and you don't care about what the outcome is and how you present yourself and how you're able to perform, that's it. And then you leave and you're done. I think if you can start to already psychologically get to a place where that's what you're doing,
Sure.
and listen, some are more gifted than others at this natural performer instinct. But I think
Right.
that's something that you work on with your dramatic coachings and you work on with your teacher to put yourself at ease in those situations. And if you haven't already started doing this, create some mock audition situations with you and your friends. Hire a
Yeah.
pianist, chip in $5 a pop, and reserve a room at your school and do some mock auditioning where everyone gives you feedback on how you presented yourself, how you talked about your pieces or introduced your pieces, what type of gestures you were making. Probably stay away from vocal technique because you probably all study with different teachers and so
Right,
forth.
right, right.
But, put yourself in the situation so that when you actually do it when it counts, it's not like this is the third time you've ever done this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would say, like, just again, keep it natural. I mean, if you're a comedian like our buddy Todd, right? And
Right.
and you can make people laugh and you know that and it comes off great. Well, that's a great way to show, wow, look at this guy's personality or look at this
Right.
this girl's like, whatever. It can go over the top and be read like too far.
Right.
So really just be you.
That is so
Unapologetically
important.
be you. If you're naturally funny, be funny. If you're naturally pleasant but not super outgoing, do that. Just be yourself.
I will say that oftentimes I've heard young singers sort of say, good afternoon. I am Weston Hurt, and I would like to sing I Giovinte la causa from Mozart's Le Nozze di
I
Figaro.
mean, that was AI before, that was AI voice before AI existed, right? It's like, I am just making the pitches go up in my voice so that it sounds like I'm actually inflecting, but really I'm just doing this.
Right. So try to make it conversational. Try
Yeah.
to be yourself in it. But also,
Right.
I will say, and the point of me trying to say this was to say, like, okay, you can say the Count's aria
Right.
from The Marriage of Figaro.
Right.
And you don't have to say by Mozart. You know what I mean? Like if it's from standard repertoire, I think
Yeah.
everyone on the panel knows what the Count's aria. Now, if you say, "Hi, I'm Weston Hurt, and I'd like to sing the Count's aria," they might be like Count di Luna. Or Count Almaviva, or
Right, right,
so
right.
it might be helpful to be specific about the title of the show. But
Yeah. I mean,
I
essentially, they
think
just want you to sing well, whatever you're
exactly,
singing.
exactly,
So I think kind of in that vein with not going over the top, we're talking about acting. You want to keep it in the crook of the piano, maybe what? I don't know, 4x4 feet, something like
yeah.
that.
I mean, I think if you give yourself a 4x4, sort of square to stay within, which might mean that you can take a step or two downstage left, as long as you're able to find your way back into the crook and make that a realistic movement, that it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's fake or weird. You know what I mean? You
Sure.
don't want to.
You also don't
You
want
don't
to
want to
lose.
find yourself all the way down. You know what
Right.
I
And
mean?
you don't want to lose connection with the pianist. I mean,
Right.
because they're trying to follow you, but you're facing the direction that's not towards them. So, I mean, they're just all kind of things to kind of be mindful of there. What do you think about stuff like props or like, I mean, like, I don't know, like a little
Yeah.
note or flower if you're singing the flower song? I don't know.
I
Maybe
think
not. What do you think?
in general, it's probably best not to use
Yeah.
props.
Yeah.
Again, if you've worked it out where you've got it, it's inside your jacket pocket and you're able to bring it out and it's no big deal. But yeah, stay away
I
from props
agree.
in general, I
I mean,
think.
I think if you can have it and not show from the beginning that you have it, like say you're gonna read you're gonna sing the letter
Catalog art. Is that what you're
scene,
gonna say?
or yeah, I was gonna say catalog, or like the letter scene, or from Werther when she,
Oh,
you know,
right.
reads the letter and stuff. It's like if you could somehow have it like hidden and then just be like, you know, at the moment where the interlude's happening, pull it out. I think that shows an audience. I mean, you're the casting people that like
Right.
this person is shrewd and they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
They've thought about it.
they're not coming in with a candlestick and a you know whatever.
Right. Tosca doesn't have the
The
knife
knife in
behind her
her
back.
exactly. Oh, we're totally on the same page there. I love that. But I mean, yeah, like we said, we're storytellers here. We need to tell the story. But again, it's we're not trying to bring forward the storyteller. We're
Right,
trying
right.
to bring forward the story, which is hopefully being very naturally enhanced by us,
And
the
let's
artists
say
and
this:
performer.
you're not on stage on a set in costume in an opera. You are in the crook of a piano in an audition, and I
Right.
think that therefore some certain things get subdued as we make our way through these stories. You know,
Yeah.
um,
And
so yeah,
so, yeah, so you poured your heart out to this audition panel, and you go out, and if you have a manager, maybe the manager is sitting next to them, and maybe they'll give you some feedback. Maybe if your manager was there, they won't give you any feedback.
yeah.
I would say probably don't expect to hear anything
That's exactly right. And I think
because
that's the
yeah,
hardest thing
sure.
because what are we so used to doing, right? When we're in high school, you do your solo and ensemble audition and you find out that day if you get a 1 or a 2 or a 3
And you
or
get comments,
yep,
right?
yep.
Right,
And you audition for the school musical. When the cast goes up, you find out if you get it or you didn't get it, you
right,
know?
right, right.
And so I think that when we sing these auditions for producing organizations, we immediately want to know, like, okay, well, did they like me? You know, are they going to cast me? What's going to happen? And
Right.
you just have to be so patient. It's the
Yeah.
hardest. One of the hardest things is, you know, over time, you eventually begin to develop a true understanding of self, and you know whether what you just did was great or
Right.
not your best.
Right.
And sometimes that's tricky because, oh my gosh, I don't know about you, but I certainly know some auditions that I went in and know that I did not sing my best,
Right.
but then ended up getting cast.
Sure.
And then there were
Absolutely.
other opportunities that I felt like I sang my best and then for whatever reason didn't get the job. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
eh,
Yeah.
I
And
think over time you start to understand that you never know and all you try to do is your best on the day and then you move forward.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this is a perfect segue into bringing in Maestro Steven White to give us, you know, that's the singer's perspective what Weston and I gave. So,
Yeah.
you know, Steven was a baritone, is a baritone, and then became a conductor, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that journey. But all this to say
From
that he
the other
knows,
side of the table.
yeah, he knows both sides, right? And that's exactly why we thought he was the perfect person to invite.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Maestro Steven White. So, for anybody who's been living under a rock and doesn't know who Steven White is, Maestro, can you tell us a little bit about what you've got going on this season? And then eventually we get into how you got started as a musician to begin with. But what do you have coming up next and what do you have for the rest of the season?
Well, I am very excited, first of all, to be with you two guys,
Yeah.
two of my favorite human beings, and as everyone knows, I mean, two legendary singers,
Oh, thank
absolutely
you.
You're too
legendary.
kind.
And I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to work with both of you. Um, I'm excited. I'm right here. I just arrived in Baltimore, where I will be an artist in residence, leading their Peabody's production of Street Scene.
Oh,
Mm,
nice.
wonderful
And so I'll
piece.
be here for the next several weeks and go directly to the Metropolitan Opera, where I get to be one of the conductors of the Julie Taymor Magic Flute, the
Oh, yeah.
holiday
Oh,
flute. I've
wow.
got 7
Yeah.
performances, and I'll tell you the thing that excites me the most about this. Now, this is kind of weird, but you know, we you notice these things and you don't take them for granted. So you
Sure.
know the radio broadcast.
Yeah.
You know, so
Oh, yeah. The Sirius XM stuff.
the
Yeah.
Saturday, well, not even the Sirius XM, but I'm talking about the Saturday afternoon broadcasts that have
Oh,
Oh,
sure.
existed from
legendary.
Oh, the
so I think
legendary. Sure.
the legend. So there are 26 Saturday broadcasts this season.
Okay.
There's one American conductor, and
Yes, sir.
it's a 63-year-old white man named White. You know, and so
Well earned. Well earned.
that's
Well
neither
earned.
here nor there. But I'm the only American. I'm the only American conductor on the radio broadcasts
Wow.
this season. which
That's
has no
awesome.
particular meaning, but I just think it's interesting. I'm proud to represent. Put it that
Well,
way.
I think
Sure,
those of
sure,
us
sure.
who know that building know what that means.
Sure, of
We
course.
know what
Right.
that
Of course.
means.
Well, I'm
Of
I'm
course.
I'm honored. I'm very excited. You know, I've had a long association with the Met. I made my debut there way back in 2010 on April
Uh-huh.
7th, but who would remember that?
Uh-huh.
And so it's I've loved working at the Met. It's like it's the conservatory that I never attended. I never went to music conservatory. I had a
Okay.
good music education, but I didn't
Sure.
go to a conservatory. And but every time I show up, from the very beginning to the end, I mean, you're around the world's greatest musicians. I mean, that
Yeah.
orchestra is unbelievable. The
Sure.
pianists are unbelievable. The coaches, and of course,
Right.
the amazing singers, the amazing
Yeah.
singers. And
Yeah.
so it's, to me, it's always a learning experience and a blessing. So I'm excited to be back there again this season. I go directly from there to where do I go? Oh, to Omaha, where I am the principal guest conductor, getting to do
That's right.
Susanna.
Oh,
Oh,
Um,
what a
nice.
show. Yeah.
doing Pat Brissett's production of Susanna with
How
the
fun.
great Caitlin Lynch as our Susanna.
Oh, that'll be
Caitlin,
wonderful.
one of the great singers of our time,
Love her.
and one of my dearest friends. So I'm excited about that. From there, I go directly to Utah, where I adore working in Utah. I love the company. But the thing I love the most, perhaps, is that you get to work with the great Utah Symphony.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
Utah is that company. Maybe there are a couple of others, but most prominently, the organization is the Utah Symphony and Opera.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're joint, and so that close collaboration with the symphony orchestra, which is one of the great orchestras in our country, is one of the reasons I love working in Utah. And so I do that, and then I go directly to AVA in Philadelphia,
Oh,
where
I've
I've
heard of
just
that
been.
place.
You've heard of that place, haven't you? Well, you know, I have just so loved my association with AVA over the last few years. Anyway, I'll be
Yeah.
doing fall stuff there in the
Oh,
spring.
Oh,
fun.
nice.
Yeah.
And
That'll be fun.
that's my immediate season, if you will.
That's
Well,
great.
congratulations. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
for sure.
And
So you mentioned.
I should say, I
Oh,
just got through doing a tremendously wonderful concert with the great Weston Hurt, singing both Germont and Sharpless magnificently.
I heard
that was
about
and
such
that.
a beautiful program.
And I'll tell you the honest to God truth that I just texted your manager and
Uh-huh.
said, I cannot think of a baritone singing any better than Weston Hurt right now. I
Oh,
mean, seriously, Weston,
I second that. I second that.
absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. Just
guys, that making me blush here, man.
no, but it's absolutely true. I mean, you've got it. So
Well,
I can
thank
give
you
you some
very much.
audition pointers. If we're going to talk about auditioning, I'll give you some audition pointers.
Well, let's say this. Let's say this. You mentioned that you didn't go to a conservatory.
Right.
Talk a little bit about how you got interested in music. I know you said that your mother was a singer and your
My mother,
father
yeah,
was a musician.
yeah, both of my parents were professional musicians, professional and professional in academia.
Mhm.
And my dad got his PhD from University of Wisconsin when I was very, very young. But I remember he was taking courses, you know, for example, in Wagner's Ring, and would come home and play. Well, I'm 6 and 7 years old and stuff.
Wow.
But the impressions that the world of music and the excitement that my father had about the music made me love it. His particular specialty was 18th century Viennese keyboard music. Well, I mean,
Oh,
come
wow.
on. So we're talking Mozart, Beethoven, and Schubert, and that's what his specialty was.
Wow.
And you know, he spent the summer of 1969 in Vienna, and I just remember the love that he had, and the whole family became Vienna files, and so that love of music and musical culture was something that, you know, that I sort of really gained. That doesn't mean I had talent. I tell you, but the biggest gift and the biggest step up that I had, maybe an advantage that I had, was the fact that I grew up in a musical household.
Mhm.
That doesn't even necessarily mean that you can carry a tune, but you have that. It's really more of a cultural appreciation for great
Sure.
music. You're not ashamed of great music. You're not embarrassed by great music. You're not
Right.
and it's just and I sort of made the assumption that everyone grew up that way, and that by the time you're 10, you knew the difference between Beethoven's Seventh and Fifth Symphonies, and you
Right.
Right.
But again, like I say, it wasn't because I was smart. Average intelligence, it doesn't matter. It's what you're exposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
believe
sure.
so greatly, and this is one of the things that's why, music education at a young age is so terribly important.
Yeah.
If we're not trying to turn everyone into Horowitz or into Pavarotti, but we're trying to give people an opportunity to love that. I think that music appreciation is as great a musical gift as the ability to do virtuosic things as a musician.
Sure.
Music appreciation is as great a gift, and there are more musicians. There are more working musicians that I wish had greater music appreciation.
Oh,
If that
yeah.
There
if
you
that
go.
makes sense.
Of
I
course.
think the cross fertilization, singers who are opposed to listening and studying Beethoven sonatas, I think are limiting themselves. Well, they
True.
say, well, how, if let's pretend I'm a bel canto singer. Why do I ever need to listen to a Beethoven piano sonata? Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm fine. Listen to it and find out.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Find out the way Claudio Rao plays this Chopin nocturne in a way that if you could sing Costa Diva the way he plays, this particular nocturne, you would be very well on your way to being a great artist. So
Sure.
the cross fertilization of the arts, particularly within classical music, to me is so important, and it became a natural thing for me. So it
Mm.
never dawned on me that I was going to specialize in anything.
Hmm.
Right.
I studied piano with my dad. I studied violin as a kid,
Okay.
and was a concertmaster of my junior high orchestra, that kind of thing. And then the terrible things happened. I found out I could sing. I found out I had a voice. The thing that was so terrible about that was that I made the juvenile assumption, oh, I've got a voice. I don't have to practice. I can sing in the shower. I can walk across the field. And at the early age, when you find out that you have a voice
Sure.
and that you thought you were just faking, but apparently it was just you're actually singing.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean that I didn't have good vocal discipline early in age. I just didn't
Mm.
pay attention to stuff. It was just easy peasy. And so I stopped practicing the piano. I stopped practicing the violin, and I thought, this is it. I'm just going to be a singer. It wasn't
Mm.
until I, tried to start having a career that I realized that having a career and singing well, both technically and stylistically, and finding the right fach for you. When I was a kid, I didn't know what fach meant,
Right.
Sure.
and we still kind of don't know for sure what it means.
Sure.
It's a fluid subject, but but I thought it was easy. It wasn't until later that I found out, oh man, there are so many details about singing. It's one thing
Right.
to impress your high school gatherings with how well you can sing, O Sole Mio, and it's
Right.
another thing to make a living as a singer.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
So conducting was really an outgrowth. I always wanted to be a conductor. I
Mm.
thought I could play third base for the Dodgers. I thought I thought I could sing the national anthem before the game, and I thought I could be a conductor at the same time. I thought I didn't realize that a degree of making up your mind would be helpful. So it was very funny. It was when I decided to give up singing completely,
Mm.
25 years ago or so, 20 years ago, and really concentrate just on conducting. That's when I got all kinds of singing opportunities that I had to turn down. That I
Right.
decided to. So you'll be happy to know that now I only sing at funerals and mainly of relatives. So
Right.
so that's sort of a little bit of my background. It's a lot of dipping my toes into lots of things regarding classical music, but to me it's all the same. I mean, people ask me what's the difference between conducting choral music and conducting opera and conducting symphonic music. Um, in reality, there's not much difference
Mm.
because one is supposed to, as a conductor, adapt always to the circumstances. And so
Yeah.
the only thing that's changing there really are the circumstances
Mm.
and
Right.
and the social aspects. There's a social aspect about choruses that does not exist in orchestras. There's a social aspect in orchestras that doesn't exist in choruses. And knowing how to navigate those differences is part of the job of what a conductor is supposed to be able to do. I like to think that I, as a conductor, if I want to be a complete conductor, I would be equally as home conducting, a chorus, a choral concert of Orlando de Lassus as I would be of, conducting Tosca.
Yeah.
Because I want to do what's stylistically appropriate and what is technically appropriate. I think that's the key.
Oh, I think I'm
Sure.
probably navigating the personalities of, I don't know, what is the stereotypical personality of a clarinetist versus an oboist versus a concert master
Right.
versus a singer versus a,
Right.
Did you
I'm
say
sure.
personality or ego?
Well,
Sorry, my cans cut out there for a second. No.
yeah, no,
Right.
I'm sure that it's all varying degrees
Yeah.
of that navigation where at the end of the day, you're trying to get a group of people to do the thing that you want them to do.
Right.
And it's got to be a little,
You've got
careful.
the number one thing in all circumstances, is that you have to be absolutely prepared. It's in every detail, the ones that they can teach and the ones that they don't teach. Time management is the one area I've found in dealing with conductors that come out of very fine conductors, get a nice training out of a conservatory. And by the way, there's not as much opera training for conductors in conservatories as there ought to be. That's
Mhm.
doesn't mean there's not any, and doesn't mean that what little is there in certain places isn't effective. But here in America, we're trying to train orchestral conductors in most of these places, and we do a very, very good job of it in many respects. But one of the things that you cannot possibly teach is the time management aspect. When you go into a rehearsal, you don't exactly know how good your orchestra is. So you've never worked with them. You don't know, for example, how many times they played Madame Butterfly. Maybe they've never played it. Maybe they played it last week. But in any case, you've got one reading rehearsal.
Right.
How do you pace yourself? How do you know what's going to correct itself? How do you know what's not going to correct itself? And how do you know I'm gonna stop here, fix this, I'm gonna skip the humming chorus because I assume they can sight read that, and then all of those are the kinds
Wow.
of things that you can only gain through experience and extreme knowledge of the material.
Sure.
Right.
And anyway, there's just so much to learn as you continue as a conductor. Dealing with personalities, dealing with different aesthetics. But the great thing, and we all three of us have this because we get to work with great music. It never gets old.
Yeah.
Someone asked me, "Man, don't you get tired of conducting La Boheme?" I said, "Are you kidding me?
No.
I mean,
Yes.
what do you mean? Do I get tired of conducting La Boheme?
Right.
Does that mean that the La Boheme is the only thing I want to conduct? Of course not.
Right.
Right.
I mean, don't you ever get tired of conducting The Marriage of Figaro? No. Do you get tired
Yeah.
of breathing?
Right.
And so,
Exactly. Eating.
but
Right.
on the other hand, when I have the occasional circumstance where I'm just not in love with the music, to me the music just doesn't speak to me as with the same kind of integrity and the same healthfulness for my soul. I don't mean
Yeah.
it's bad music,
Sure.
but I'm not as moved by it, but yet I have to live with it on a daily basis. I have to say I'm it convinces me of the fact that there is great music. Everyone talks about music is relative, and well, of course, music is relative. Is there such a thing as bad music? A lot of people would say no. A lot of people would say no. There's no such thing as bad music. It's all in the eyes of the beholder. And I would say, okay, well, if that's true, then there's no such thing as great music, right? Oh no. Of course, it's great music. Well, so
Right.
don't go around, announcing what you think is bad music. I would never do that. That's bad music.
No.
But for yourself, I think there are just certain things that I've been asked to conduct that I've just I politely refused, and would prefer someone else that would that would do that really well, and to whom it means so much more, they would do a better job. Put it this way, they get more out of it, and they would give more to the people they work.
Sure.
I'm way off subject of whatever you want to talk
Well,
about.
no, I was just
No,
going to
not
say,
at all.
well, one of the important things that a conductor or artistic director of a company has to do is sit in auditions.
Yeah.
And Brian and I were talking a little bit before about the auditioning process from a singer's perspective and the things that we all think about. And as a singer yourself, you understand that sort of, what's the best way to describe it? The sort of like insanity that we go through.
The
Yeah,
nerve
I mean,
wracking, right?
it really is. It's psychological warfare that
Yeah.
you impose on yourself just by the nature of deciding that you're going to be a professional singer. And it's amazing. It's amazing. And I think, there are some people that thrive under those conditions.
Yeah.
There are some
Right.
people that sing their best at auditions. And there are other people that don't audition well at all. It's the same with people that test well in school. They might be very,
Right.
very smart, but they don't test well. There's some
Right.
people that they don't do homework, but they test well.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Sure.
So let me ask you a couple of questions to dispel some myths, right? So like, the stereotypical singer, I think, walks into an audition and forgets a word, and they feel like the audition is, oh, it was terrible. Oh my God, I got to this point and I didn't know what the word was. I just totally made something up. Does that matter to you?
I can't imagine that put it this way. It would be the only reason it would matter would be if it were indicative of other aspects that were equally, you know what I'm saying? If that were the only
Right.
thing that were wrong with it, it would be something to talk about as you gave them their first place, ribbon,
Yeah, right.
or whatever. Those kinds of small little things. It would be churlish to hold that against someone. But I will tell you, the thing, and maybe this is too early in our conversation to talk more about that. But it's the you're very rarely auditioning for just one person. Sometimes when you're
Right.
auditioning for a job, it could be that there's one person that's the decision maker on that, and but other times, you're usually auditioning for a panel. And it has surprised me that, the differences of opinions between, so when I'm sitting on a panel, whether it's for the, the Met Font competition or Vincent Foundation or any other of these competitions,
Yeah.
and typically I'll have a stage director or a coach or often even an artist manager. And the things that matter to the three of us or the four of us are often wildly different in detail. In detail, they're wildly different. But usually, when you're dealing with folks, there's a degree of consensus, even if one's emphasis is something different. There's usually a degree of consensus around the various creams of the crop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
So
but the
that.
idea of being perfect, of course, as singers and as musicians, we want to be as clean as possible. But there's so much to consider. There's so much to consider that I think big picture is what you need to keep in mind.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So like when a singer walks into the room, what is it that you start to notice? What do you want to notice? What are you looking for?
Um, I now I'll tell you that my perspective from the very beginning, because as I said, I've often have, let's just say that we're talking about a situation now like the Met competition,
Sure.
where you've got a panel. Let's say we're looking for that. My main emphasis is always going to be on the voice, on musicality, and on singing technique. All the musical aspects, all of those musical aspects are going to be my main emphasis. So if somebody walks into the room with dignity, but they're not too imperious, but they're neither too casual, but they've got a good sense of themselves, confidence without being cocky, that puts them on an even keel for me.
Sure.
And I also think too that great respect for the music and for the circumstances. I think basically you want singers, and you want all of us, because we're respectful. I want to be respectful to the singers that I'm sitting in judgment of, if you will.
Right.
I want to be respectful to them, just from my demeanor. So I think being cool, calm, and collected is really about the only thing that matters to me that when someone comes in. And if they are if they aren't dressed the way I think they ought to be, is that going to kill it? No. These are because if Pavarotti came in, did an audition for me, and he was, he was wearing soccer shorts, I think that was a little bit odd, and probably, but then he'd open his mouth, and I'd say, well, we can forgive the soccer shorts.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Put him in a
So,
costume. Yeah, you'll be fine.
but I simply think it's like it's like anything else. I mean, how um, you want to get in the right frame of mind and demonstrate that you're in the right frame of mind when you walk in. Oftentimes, you walk in, you don't know what piece of music someone's going to ask for. I mean, if you're walking in and you're and you don't know whether they're going to ask for the Earl King or they're going to ask for O Sole Mio, okay? Or we're talking about two different
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
If you knew you were going to come in doing the Earl King, you would walk in a certain kind of way.
Sure.
You're getting ready to sing this very dire and dramatic piece. If you're going to walk in with O Sole Mio, you're going to have an open collar and you're going to be Mr. Sunshine. But in a competition, you don't often know that. That's why I'm saying just having a middle grade kind of, I'm respectful here. I'm here to take on all comers and do it with joy in my heart. And you can't see the butterflies that I've got going on. But I don't think overthink it. I
have a question. Yeah, I have a question that just came. I'm going off script here a little bit, but I remember doing auditions. Maestro and I had the same manager back many years ago, and there were differences between doing auditions for a specific job or just doing a house audition or general audition for someone to get to know your voice. What do you think the trend is these days about do you as a conductor and as an artistic director and a music director, do you want to see in someone you don't know scope, or do you want to see I have zeroed in on my like my bread and butter, this is my specialty? What do you think about that?
Well, that's an interesting topic, actually. I will tell you that in the 30 years or so that I've been conducting, I have never once held an audition, I don't think, for a specific role that I want to hear.
Okay.
I mean, if I can't extrapolate from the way, let's say I'm wanting to have Contessa.
Yeah.
I'm wanting a Contessa, and I just heard so and so sing Fiordiligi.
Okay.
If I can't extrapolate from that, particularly if I've worked with somebody, whether or not they can sing. And that's one of the things that I find amazing. There's not, the number of companies, bigger companies that have that have lots of roles to hand out. I think it's always fantastic. It's always fine for someone to come, to have auditions. But I have never gone to New York. I say never. I've done it maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
Gone to New York and auditioned for a particular role, but I can tell, whether or not someone can sing such and such by so for example, I just had Weston sing, Sharpless and Germont for me. Well, if by now I don't know that Weston Hurt is the world's greatest Sharpless and Germont, then, but I'm not going to have to. I don't have to have him hear that. So that doesn't really answer your question, but I will answer your question.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just simply saying that I've always found those kinds of, let's sing this for me specifically, to be a bit pedantic and sort of in many cases, not always, but in many cases, I have found those kinds of auditions to reveal more about the people doing the auditions than the. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, if you're auditioning for a specific role, let's say that you're not a Cervinetta, but you are a Fiaccamilli, but you do have Fiaccamilli.
Okay.
And oh, you just found out about this audition. Someone's looking for a Cervinetta. And I've never, believe it or not, here I am, this kind of a soprano, but I've never worked this up, but I did work up Fiaccamilli. If you can't tell from Fiaccamilli a good bit about, so what I think is, yes, be as specific as possible when people are looking for specific roles. And I do think always sing things that put you at your best.
Sure.
I mean, so Brian, I mean, you can. The thing I've been so impressed with you over the course of your career is the breadth of your repertoire. You can do lots of things that everybody can do. but you do some things that only you can do. I mean, you're one of the few,
Well, and
you're one of the
yeah,
very few handfuls that have been able to sing at such a high level, and it definitively a good bit of the rep that
yeah,
we're
and
talking
I think
about.
that's probably where the question kind of like why it rose to the top of my mind is because, funny enough, if I think I have sung a specific audition where they wanted to hear, parts of the Sharpless duet and then parts of the love duet and then Addio Fiorito Azil and the trio for a butterfly, and then for Bohème, I've been asked to sing specific things, but for the hardest stuff. They never. The only thing, okay, I once did a video audition for John Nelson for the first time I did Les Troyens, and he asked for Aeneas' opening aria and then the slow part and the kind of the last 2/3 of the end aria. But other than that, I was always there trying to show because well, we worked together during these years when my kind of tail end of AVA before stuff, and in the U.S. I wasn't getting a lot of opportunity. It was like I wasn't clearly an Italian tenor or a German tenor or a whatever kind of tenor. I mean, I think I left AVA with a Tosca and a Rusalka, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then things came,
Well,
but it was just
I think
yeah,
that's partly an American thing. I mean, actually,
sure,
John Nelson, may he rest in peace.
yeah,
He's an interesting case because he knew Berlioz within an inch of its life, and
yeah, for sure.
it's through his Berlioz, really, that the size of his career sort of
Mm,
happened because of that. But
yeah,
he was also one of the most, and I'm not saying this negatively, but
sure.
you talk about, and you know this. I mean, he was such a control. He was so, from the first rehearsal to the last performance, he was giving notes. I mean, he
Oh
was,
yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, he never rested in terms of wanting to get abject perfection.
Sure,
So
sure.
he knows what he knows what it would take to sing that role from the
Yeah,
beginning.
right.
It's not that he couldn't tell whether, if someone was an A or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's that he was so specific in what he wanted and what he
Hmm.
wanted to do with the person he chose, that was almost like, uh, the best of all those worlds. I mean, it's
It was
just
yeah, it was a great experience. He was so generous to me, so kind. Because again, as every time pretty much I've done Les Troyens, they lost their tenor. This one was more like 6 months ahead of the start of rehearsals. But I remember the first rehearsal was like, Brian, have you ever sung this all in the same day? I was like, Maestro, yes.
yeah,
Many times I could not accept this job in
right.
good conscience if I haven't sung because it's just such a monster.
Well,
Uh, you know.
not his having known that you had done that. That was a legitimate question.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
I mean, that was a
Absolutely.
totally legitimate question. But
Yeah.
I tell you what, now you talk about a piece that I would, I'd consider amputating several fingers on my left hand. I'm so dying to do Les Troyens. I mean,
Uh,
I just the duet alone, for me,
oh
is
my gosh. Yeah.
but anyway, but what I was going to say though is that,
Yeah.
so you left AVA and you had, a handful of standard rep, and all that. The literature that you sang, the literature that were, when you were out there doing the stuff, and where you're talking about when the height of your fame, that all came from, in repertoire that has much more, what's the right word? Europe is much more interested in it than America is interested,
Yes,
is what I'm
absolutely.
trying to say. And so
Absolutely.
I think sometimes, it's very funny how, I was just talking with someone the other day. Maybe it was you, Weston, when we were talking. Remind me when. Oh yeah, we were talking about the Massenet aria,
Oh yeah,
the Troyen. I
Thais
mean
or
the Thais,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
and you can prepare one of these great arias that nobody knows,
Hmm.
and that shows your voice, it shows an incredible intellect, and it
That's
shows
right.
great expressivity, and it shows nuance, it shows all these things. But if the people that are doing the auditions, unless they're enlightened people,
Mm,
Right.
they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
yeah.
I think
Okay,
specifically, and this brings us back to the auditioning, right? So
yeah.
I think the story I was telling you was when I was a graduate student at Indiana University. I had a
Ooh,
coaching with Tim Noble, and he
yeah,
was
oh yes, that's
encouraging
it.
me as I was looking for repertoire. I was looking for a French aria, and I was like, well, I've got the Avant quitte Celieu, of course, but everybody sings that. He goes, oh yeah, everybody sings that. You should take a look at King Henry VIII by Saint-Saëns. There's a
That's right.
wonderful
That's
aria,
right.
Qui
Yes,
donc pommande de Cantilem, and I started
which is
looking at it.
great.
It's a great aria. It's got an ABA section with a recit beforehand. It's almost like, it's just like Avant quitte, but it's just different and a different plot, whatever. And so I remember I started taking that around to some auditions, and I remember so clearly they just kind of listen to me and they go, "What's that from?" Oh yeah, okay. Like they're just clueless, and they're like, "Do you sing the Faust?" Yeah. Can we hear the Faust? And then I'd sing that, and then they go, oh yeah, that really is kind of like the same aria, just a little different. I'm like, that's why I offered it. But to the point, it's like when we're thinking about, and again, I think a lot of our listeners are between the ages of, let's say, 18 and 30. And they're out there trying to get their own packages of arias for auditions going and so forth. As somebody who's sat on that other side of the table, when you look at someone's list, what is it that you're looking for?
I do, when I'm looking at someone's list, I'm trying to make a determination. I'm trying to extrapolate without hearing them.
Right. Before they even sing.
Before they say anything, this is a dramatic baritone. This is a basso cantante. This is a spinto tenor. Okay, and then you hope to choose things like, so if I get the chance to pick the very first thing, I want to choose something that I think most nearly confirms that
assumption.
Particular thing, that assumption.
Mm-hmm.
When people, it's very funny if you've put let's say you're a baritone and you've got a couple standard baritone arias. Let's say you've got Di Provenza on there. Let's say you've got Eri 2 on there. You can say that. And then you've got a French, and then you put Die Frist ist on there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, all right. What am I going to do with that? Well, my thought is, I want right out of the box. I'm thinking, all right, I want to hear what he can do with Wagner, but I also want to hear what he can do with a Verdi line. So my thought is, I'm going to pick Die Provenza and I'm going to pick Die Frist ist but I'm going to do it in opposite order. I want to see how he has that line after he sings Die Frist ist
Right.
I mean, so in other words, when you are making a list of things, you are setting up a certain kind of psychological response from the person that's listening to you, the person that's going to evaluate you.
Right.
I'll tell you the most ridiculous. So I'm going to tell you a story that obliterates your King Henry VIII story, because it shows my unbelievable naivete. Back before I gave up singing, and so the very first year that I entered the Met competition, this is in South Carolina, I had been in love with Wozzeck. You can't imagine how much I love Wozzeck.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so I decided that I wanted to have Wozzeck's final Das Messer. Wo ist das Messer? Ich hab's da gelassen. Näher, noch näher, mir graus. Aber der Mond verrät mich. Der Mond ist blutig. Okay, I thought that would make a great impression.
I love that that's off the top of your head.
I learned it very well back in the day, and so I had to have my own pianist. I got a pianist that could really learn it, and I said, I ain't gonna do this. I said, the only thing I see in my way is when I get to the finals, there's not going to be enough rehearsal time for the Met Orchestra to spend. They're not going to let me do this. They're not going to let me do this. So I go out there. Hello, my name is Steven White. I will be singing "Wo ist das Messer" from Wozzeck, or whatever it is. And I get in there, and I cannot tell you how nonplussed these people were. And I mean, and the point is, I don't blame them. Because in my naivete, I thought that they would be impressed with the intellectual exercise that I was showing off.
Right.
And it wasn't that I didn't have a dramatic concept, and it didn't mean there was no vocalism in it. But I got through singing that. Uh, can we hear Avant de quitter ce lieu, please? And then get this. So here's where the naivete continues. Okay, get this. This is the most thing. This is the worst. Do you remember, Weston? You wouldn't know this necessarily, Brian, but Weston,
Okay.
do you remember the old edition of the Adler baritone arias?
Absolutely. I have it. Yeah.
Do you remember what key Avant de quitter ce
It
lieu
was
is in?
down a whole step.
In D flat.
Yes.
Wow.
No one told me. No one told me.
And there's no recitative in that edition.
There's
It
no
just starts.
there's no recitative in that, and no one told me. And my teacher, I'm not going to say, I actually had a great teacher, but my teacher, it didn't dawn on my teacher to, so I sang Wozzeck and I sang Avant de quitter ce lieu in the
The low
key
key.
of D flat instead of E flat. And I went out to the Met Comp and I was absolutely dumbfounded as to why I didn't get advanced until, so I came back and did the comments and the one person that knew that I was in D flat instead of E flat, he asked me what key I was in. I said I was in D flat. He said, well, it's written in E flat. And I looked at the music. I said, no, it's not. It's not. It's D flat. Yeah, but that's so I had to learn. That's an incredible thing. Actually,
Yeah,
it was an
right.
incredible thing that I learned.
Yeah.
That was the most meaningfully educational days of my life when I just fell flat on my face in two specific ways that had to do with my own assumptions about this audition and about where I was. And it's easy to make. We're wrapped up in our own world. We're wrapped up in our own sound. We're wrapped up in all of this.
Right.
We're proud of what we do. We believe in what we do. We get out there. Isn't everyone going to embrace it? And then you have no idea that you just you have disqualified yourself in ways that go beyond. I don't even know that they had any feelings about my singing because I know that I sang it well in D flat. Who couldn't?
Right. I love the transposition story. It reminds me of when I was doing the Palm Beach opera competition years ago in the junior division with Eileen Perez. I think she won first and I won second. Well, I had sung Enlève-toi Soleil in the like the semifinals or like in the finals concert was with the orchestra. And nobody asked me what key I wanted to do it in.
Right.
And I guess nobody thought to think, oh, it's usually in B flat, not B natural where the orchestra parts are. So that was fun to find out in the first rehearsal where it was like,
this feels a little high.
I mean, like my voice is high, but man, the turns in that piece, and you've got to hit about, in that case, 4 B naturals.
Yes.
Kind of like singing La Donna Mobile 2 or 3 times in a row. But yeah, no, it's and that was again another naive. I mean, with the first time I went to the Met auditions when I went to the semifinals, I was 19. I was a junior in college, and they say meet at the stage door at 10 o'clock or whatever. Nobody told me the stage door was in the parking garage. I walked around that building 3 times looking for a stage door. Right. And nobody told me the stage door of the Met is below the gift shop in the parking garage. And so I was late and I felt so stupid. And I was like, and I told the story just like I do. It's like, nobody told me where the stage door was. I walked around this building 3 times. And it just was like, but there's something sweet about that. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, oh gosh, talk about falling on your face and feeling bad and then trying to. Oh, anyway, well, listen, let's say that we got the job, right? You've got the job. We have impressed you and the rest of your panel to get the job. First day of music rehearsal, it's either a sing through or we're going to work through act 1 or whatever it is. What are you hoping to hear in that first rehearsal, that first, music time where we're all getting together and just talking about the singing and the notes and that? What,
from my perspective
my
perspective as a conductor, I'm glad you asked that because because there's a very interesting phenomenon that takes place. My job as a conductor, and what I have sway over, is how people use their voice, and both musically and to a certain degree technically. I'm not afraid to shy away from approaching a singer about technique if it is related to musical matters. like, for example, or aesthetic matters.
Mhm.
I'm not at all afraid to ask someone for aesthetic purposes to open a vowel more, for
Yeah.
example.
Mhm.
Great.
Mhm.
But I'm not there to give voice lessons. So,
Sure.
by the way, so what'll happen often to me is that, as it is in every case, in most cases, every now and then you have a collection of the world's greatest singers,
Mm.
and that's really marvelous. But usually you'll have some singers that are marvelous, some singers that are B plus, or I'm just talking about in terms of their vocal skills or the quality of their voice, let's say.
Sure.
And that makes an impression on me. Let's say I've never worked with this singer before, and I'm hearing them for the first time. Of course, I immediately make a note of, this is this person's voice. This person, and that can be a disappointed reaction. Oh, I wish it was
Uh-huh.
more beautiful, or I wish it were more
Right.
attractive to me.
Right.
But that person might be the only person that's singing all of the musical values exactly correctly. That person
Sure.
might be the only person that's actually have given real thought to the expressive aspect of things.
Mm.
Um, and so I cease to be either impressed or unimpressed with someone's God-given voice
Mhm.
in about a half hour, because
Yeah.
we've got a month of work to do,
Right.
and I become much more involved in that process, in terms of, are they listening? Are they with me? Am I with them? Are their intentions clear? This is the number one thing. And let's come back to this. But can I make a parenthetical statement that
Sure.
we
Yeah.
can come back to? Put a pin in.
Yeah.
As a singer, expressing, singing, as any musician, the most important thing is that your intentions are clear.
Mhm.
Right.
And I, as a conductor, I can conduct someone with, if they're singing, if you're singing, I can have my eyes closed if your intentions are clear. I don't have to see you. I don't ever have to look at you. Not nice if you check with me from time to time, but I can accompany, if your intentions are clear, I can, if we you can be accompanied,
Sure.
because of and it'll read to the audience, and that doesn't have anything to do with the quality of your voice. Whether it's a big voice or whether it's a small voice, whether it's a profound resonance or unusual beauty, or whether it's a bleat, all of those things, and we can have our opinions about the quality of the voice, but there are so many things that are different from the quality of the voice that are incredibly important to the act of singing and performing. And I think that as singers, we get caught up with the quality of our voice.
Mm.
Sometimes singers don't love their voice. Sometimes singers love their voice more than they ought to. But and of course, the whole thing is, the whole goal is to use whatever our God-given voice is to the best of our ability, always refining it, all of that. But I think that sometimes we lose that. But I, as a conductor, that's what I'm interested in more than anything else either. I cannot turn this particular singer into, Tito Schipa. I
Right.
can't do
Right.
that.
Right.
That's not going to happen. And so I'm not going to be sitting there disappointed the whole time. I'm going
Sure.
to be thrilled that this person works beautifully. This is one of the reasons why I think Fischer Dieskau, by the way. I mean, I know for some people, Fischer Dieskau is a for some opera people, Fischer Dieskau is a dirty word. I've never understood that,
Right.
because Fischer Dieskau, who doesn't have never had the, let's say, the resonance or the kind of um, uh, just general tonality, spatial tonality of, let's say, the Cappuccilli or something.
Mhm.
Sure.
But the way Fischer Dieskau used his voice is what always moved me from the beginning. I kind of see the point when people make that observation. But if the only thing you're interested in is the quality of a voice, then I'm not going to, I'm
Yeah.
not going to listen to anyone giving a piano recital unless they're on a 9.5-foot Börsendorfer. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to listen to them.
Right.
And if you're and we as singers are the only ones that get obsessed with our voices. I mean, if can you imagine if you were a young pianist and from the very beginning, the very first day you decided to take up piano, you had one of the world's greatest pianists to practice.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Right.
We work on all of the things that it means to become a good pianist, and then we get to transfer it to a Steinway or a Börsendorfer or a Stradivarius. But
Mhm.
but we are the only ones that have the ability to use, and the converse of that is true as well.
Mhm.
Just because I pick up a Stradivarius doesn't mean I can play the Bach
Right.
Chaconne beautifully.
Sure.
Right.
And just because you might have you might have the voice of Weston Hurt or Brian Email, two great voices, but if you don't know how to use them, it doesn't matter. There are all
Right.
kinds of people out there. There are all kinds of people doing jobs that have no idea
Yeah.
that they have great voices.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
no idea that they have great voices. They just do. You know, there are all kinds of people that they're walking around with colds and don't even know they have colds. But we as singers are so obsessed that if we feel the slightest thing, we know we have a cold.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Well, I know you just kind of finished up your tenure at Roanoke, and Weston has been there. I've been there. I just want to, kind of give a shout out and give the opportunity for you to talk about your time there. And I certainly just, that Di Quella Pira video that Neil took of us, probably 20 years at this point, got a lot of mileage and probably a lot of good audition opportunities for me out of that. And that was a wonderful concert. I mean, remember we did Lucia Sextet, we did
You did Ate Okada.
We did Ate Okada. We did the quartet from Rigoletto. I mean, we pretty much, and it was great. And I was thrilled to do it. I was glad I had the stamina to do it. Right. But literally, the point of that was for all of us to get together and have this wonderful concert, and then for me to have a bunch of videos to then go out and get jobs from. And
Talise Trevino was on that as well.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Well, I would say, so we're starting the 50th year now at Opera Room.
Okay.
The 50th anniversary. And I looked at that and I said 50 years, and I've been there for 26. I've been there for just, slightly over. I've been there for 52% of our existence.
Yeah.
And my schedule has gotten so busy in other places, and I really felt as though it is not that these other places are more important than Opera Roanoke at all. I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
What I feel is though the Opera Roanoke is too important for me to hold them hostile to my schedule.
Yeah.
So and 26 years is a long time to be in one place. But to your point about the fact that you've been there, over the years, I've had the thrill of bringing some of the world's great singers there, because this is the thing that I found, that there are and it's also part of the advantage of of working in other places. So I get to know people in other places, and they will do a favor for me. Stephen Costello came down and did a concert with me.
Yeah.
I've had recently people like Clay Hilly, who is now having like unbelievable success and held in the Helden repertoire. I mean, just amazing. He did Pagliacci for me. We did Das Lied von der Erde. I've had incredibly great artists come. Eileen Perez did a recital for me. Callan Asparian came and did a recital for me way back in some of my earliest days. And but for me, it's simply been my philosophy as a conductor, whether working with singers or whether it's working with an orchestra. Of course, we're all concerned about audiences. We want audiences to be engaged. We want audiences to want to come and be interested in what we're doing. But as a conductor, my job is not to conduct the audience.
Right.
Nor is my number one job and the greatest thrill that I have as a conductor. Because if you look up the definition of a conductor, nowhere does it say that anything about an audience. It doesn't say anything about an audience. My audience is not even an audience. It is my collaborators. I want to give my fellow musicians that I have the privilege, the unbelievable privilege of being the person who, for better or worse, we're going to have to go with what I've decided to do here. Okay?
Yeah.
As George W. Bush would say, the decision maker or the decider in chief, or whatever that terminology it was that he used. And that privilege is the greatest privilege there is in all of music, I believe. That privilege is the greatest privilege there is, and incumbent upon that is, I think, the greatest responsibility.
Yeah.
So to me, my responsibility is to my musicians, and if I am not giving them a good experience, whether they're singers or whether they are or whether they're in the orchestra, I just feel as though it's my responsibility to give them a rewarding experience. I mean, in an orchestra like Roanoke, we got people traveling from all over the place just to come and be in this orchestra. I want it to be worth their while. I want them to be challenged musically, fed artistically, and so that's just been my goal, and that's why I feel as though the 26 years I was there, it's allowed me to be able to do that, and
I
it's
love that. I mean, yeah, I'm still Facebook friends with some of those orchestra musicians that I met on that gig, and they'll drop a comment here or there about something, but hey, my voice is coming back here, Steven. So who knows? Maybe Nebraska,
listen,
Omaha, we get out there and sing a little something fun.
Let me say something for the record, Brian.
Yeah.
You are one of the great artists of our time.
Oh,
I'm absolutely serious. And someone, so you're mentioning this Di Quella Pieters. People should go look that up. The old school, and I'm saying this in the best possible sense.
Sure. I
mean, it in the best possible sense. In terms the dignity of Björling, that you stood up. In fact, I'm getting chills thinking about it.
Oh,
The way that you stood up there and sang the Di Quella Pieters. Of course, you had the high C. Of course, you sang it magnificently. But I'm talking about the dignity of your persona as an artist. That was so incredibly evident, and to me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for students of the game. Yeah. You're a student of the game, Weston. I know you're a student of the game.
100%.
I mean, and that's what we all have. That's what we all have to be. I wish it's almost an intangible thing in terms of how to describe what I'm talking about with you specifically here, Brian. It's almost intangible. But you know it when you see it, and when you know it when you feel it. And
you make me tear up here, Steven.
But,
I mean,
but
really,
I'm not BSing you.
No, I know.
I feel that way about you because the kinds of things that you've been able to do, and the kinds of things that you're going to continue to do are remarkable from a technical standpoint. But most importantly, to me, it's just from an artistic standpoint. I mean, just artistically. I just feel like you have embraced your art, particularly in the repertoire that only you can do, or a very, very small handful of you can do, and you do it with such understanding and such respect. That's what I love about you, Brian.
Well, thank you, buddy. Weston, I'm handing it over to you, man. I got to clean myself up.
Listen, you spoke about privilege, Steven, and I just want to say that I speak for Brian when I say that it is a privilege to have been on the other side of your baton a number of times, and I think it will be a privilege for our audience to hear your experience and your opinions and your takes on all these different things. And we're so thankful for you to be on our podcast. And
I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
No, thanks so much for being here.
It was a great time. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we wish you the best the rest of the weekend, and we will see you soon on the stages. And
I look forward to it.
Hopefully, we'll be up there with you.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye. See ya.
Thanks so much for joining us on Season 2 of Between the Notes podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe to our videos, and we will see you next time.